10.
Hello, welcome to our next session for our Bible lesson. This one's called God So Loved Your School. I know that everybody has been in school lately, but this is based on that. Right now, we're going to start off with a game called Simon Says. I know everybody heard about that game, but this one I'm going to change it to Pastor Jackson Says. So here we go. Ready, guys? I'm going to say it and see who messes up. Okay, there's Elizabeth. Where's Alina? There she is. Okay. Pastor Jackson says, put your hand on your head. Pastor Jackson says, put your hands down. Pastor Jackson says, stand on one foot. Lena, what happened? Yeah. Okay, put your foot down. Oh, Lena already lost. That's okay.
Wow, all right. Every school day, we are spending several hours on one of the greatest mission fields in the world. Is it surreal to think that on this mission field, you might be the only presentation of Jesus that some classmates see? What a calling, what a responsibility, what an opportunity. Jesus said, therefore, go and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit, and teaching them to obey everything I have commanded you. He also said, you will receive power when the Holy Spirit comes on you, and you will be witnesses in Jerusalem and in all of Judea and Samaria, and to the ends of the earth. For the disciples back then, Jerusalem was their immediate surroundings. It was where they would be witnesses first. For us as disciples right now, Jerusalem is our neighborhood and our schools. This is where we will start to share Jesus first. We are the ones, this is the place, and now is the time. We're going to look at some of the Bibles. Sarah, who married Abraham and was told, yes. Thank you. Okay, we're going to look at someone in the Bible, Sarah. She was the one who was married to Abraham, and she was told by God that she was going to have a child. The key here is that they were both very old and past the childbearing age. And Sarah literally laughed when she overheard a conversation that in 1 year she would have a child. She discovered this was too old for her to have this to happen. Or in other words, Sarah was saying, I'm not the one, this is not the place, and now is not the time. Have you ever told God that? Have you ever offered God excuses? Let's jump into the story and see how God responded to Sarah's lack of faith in her ability. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and read the scripture. It says, all right, I know I saved it. Here it is. I will surely return to you in due season, and your wife Sarah shall have a son. And Sarah was listening at the tent entrance behind him. And now Abraham and Sarah were old, advanced in age, and it had ceased to be with Sarah after the manner, saying, after I have grown old, and my husband is old, shall I have pleasure? The Lord said to Abraham, why did Sarah laugh and say, shall I indeed bear a child now that I am old? Is anything too wonderful for the Lord? At the set time, I will return to you in due season, and Sarah shall have a son. But Sarah denied, saying, I did not laugh, for she was afraid. And he said, oh, yes, you did laugh. We are the ones. Sarah laughed. Really? Sarah did not believe God could bless her. But she was the one in the eyes of God. Sarah believed she wasn't good enough to have a child because of her age. She couldn't fathom that God could do this miracle through her. But God answered, is anything too hard for the Lord? In the same way, sometimes we have a hard time believing God can use us, that we are not the one, but God says otherwise. God's plan for you started before birth. Jeremiah 1 says, before we were formed in the belly, I knew. Before you came forth from the womb of your mother, I sanctified you. I ordained you to be a prophet to the nations. God's call on your life is clear. You are the one to walk out his plans for your life. God's hand is on you. In Psalm 139, David said, I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Think about the detail that God had put in your earthly body. Our eyes have 1 million receptors. Our ears have 24,000 fibers that vibrate. The human body has 500 muscles, 200 bones, and miles and miles of nerve fibers that give you the agility. The human heart beats 36 million times. Our lungs have 600 million pockets. The human brain has 4 million sensors. If God would pour so much into your natural body, it is going to die, that is going to die and decay. How much value has he put into the spirit that's eternal? In transition, I'm thankful we serve a God who believes that we can be the missionary to our school and our church and our homes. That he created us to do far greater things than we can imagine, no matter what the place might look like. Sarah laughed. Oh, well, will I really have a child? Sarah didn't believe this was a place in her life to have a child. Again, God answered, is anything too hard for the Lord? There are so many places in the Bible where conditions didn't look very favorable. Just look at the one in the famine in Genesis 26. There was a great famine that hit. Isaac wanted to leave, but God said to Isaac, I will help you and I will bless you in this place. To bring relief, Isaac decided to instruct the people to dig wells that would bring water. The Philistines continued to attack, and at one point even stepped back to basically mock them. God did bless them, and they found water, and Isaac named that place Rehoboth. Okay. Sorry. Okay. Which means God has given me room to be fruitful. God will bless you in this place. I am sure your school seems spiritually dry at times and almost like the famine we just talked about. Remember, God's presence was still there. You can be fruitful there. He will still bless you despite the conditions. Now is the time. Sarah laughed. Will I really have a child now that I am old? Sarah believed that God's timing was way off. In the eyes of nature, that he promised was impossible. Again, God answered, is anything too hard for the Lord? You may not feel that this is the time. Maybe you think you're too old, or that you're not ready, or that it's too difficult. But I ask the same thing, is anything hard for the Lord? John 11 tells the story of the death and resurrection of Lazarus. Martha, his sister, was focused on what was or what might be to come. When he said, I know he will rise again in the resurrection, she focused on the future. But Jesus said, I am the resurrection, meaning I am right now. Present tense. The time is right now. Pay attention to what God is doing now. Remember when we were playing Simon Says or Pastor Jackson Says earlier, if you moved at the wrong time, you're out. But also, if you didn't move when you were supposed to, you could be out. Let me tell you something. God is crying out through his word and through his Holy Spirit. Now is the time, but it's not Pastor Jackson says or Simon says. It's God says and the Holy Spirit says. And they say that now is the time to share Jesus wherever you go. School, your home. And remember that baby that Sarah was supposed to have? She didn't. His name was Isaac. And we even talked about him some earlier. God promised her and he delivered that promise, even though she didn't think it would happen because of who she was, where she was, and when it was. Okay. Okay, he delivered that promise, even though she didn't think it would happen because of who she was, where she was, and when it was. God was calling you to share. Share his love to your school, to your loved ones, everywhere you go. We are the ones. This is a place. Now is the time. All right. See you next time. God bless.